Good day, everyone. So today we will be present to you the Marshmallow Test Experiment. And I'm Nordy Dasin Migsapak together with my co-researcher, Miss Queen Ampatuan and Miss Ruela Tagal. In the year 1960s, a Stanford professor named Walter Mischel began conducting a series of important psychological studies. During his experiments, Michelle and his team tested hundreds of children, most of them around the ages of 4 and 5 years old, and revealed what is now believed to be one of the most important characteristics for success in health, work, and life. So let's talk about what happened and, more importantly, how you can use it. So the marshmallow test experiment was begun by bringing each child into a private room, so sitting them down in a chair and placing a marshmallow on the table in front of them. So at this point, the researcher offered a deal to the child. Then the researcher told the child that he was going to leave the room and that if the child did not eat the marshmallow while he was away, then they would be rewarded with a second marshmallow. So if the child decided to eat the first one before the researcher came back, then they would not get another or second marshmallow. So the choice was simple: one treat right now or two treats later. So the researcher left the room for the 15 minutes. So as you can imagine, the footage of the children waiting alone in the room was rather entertaining. So some kids jumped up and ate the first marshmallow as soon as the researcher closed the door. So others wiggled and danced and scooted in their chairs as they tried to restrain themselves, but eventually gave in to a temptation a few minutes later. And finally, a few of the children did manage to wait the entire time. And Walter Mischel published this experiment in year 1972. So this popular study became known as the marshmallow experiment. But it wasn't the treat that made it famous. The interesting part came later. So the Stanford Marshmallow Experiment is a famous psychological study that explored the concept of delayed gratification in one children or two or more. So in this study, a child was offered the choice between one small but immediate reward or two small rewards if they waited for a period of time. So during this time, the researcher left the child in a room with a single marshmallow for about 15 minutes and then returned. If they did not eat the marshmallow, the reward was either another marshmallow, depending on the child's preference. So the objectives of this experiment is to investigate the development of self-control in children. If kakainin niya ba yung marshmallow na iniwan sa kanya or anong gagawin niya during the experiment. Next is the background of the study. Walter Mischel was born on February 22, 1930 in Vienna, Austria, and he died on September 12, 2018 in New York, United States. Walter Mischel was an American psychologist best known for his groundbreaking study on delayed gratification known as the marshmallow test. Mischel was born the younger of two brothers. His father was a businessman. Following the Nazi occupation of Vienna in year 1938, he and his family immigrated to the United States, settling in year 1940 in Brooklyn, New York. Mischel Terrence opened a 5 and dine shop, for which he made deliveries while maintaining various part-time jobs. He was an valedictorian of high school class and received a scholarship to New York University. Although he initially enrolled a pre-medical course work, Mischel redirected his focus towards psychology and earned a bachelor's degree in 1951, specializing in clinical psychology. He earned a master's degree from the City College of New York in the year 1953 and a PhD from the Ohio State University in year 1956. He thereafter held professorships at the University of Colorado in year 1956 to 1958 and in Harvard University in year 1958 to 1962. And the last one is in the Stanford University in year 1962 to 1982. In year 1983, Mischel became a professorship at Columbia University. He was elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences in the year 1991 and the National Academy of Sciences in year 2004. Mischel served as editor of Psychological Review in year 2000 to 2003 and a president of Association for Psychological Service during 2007 to 2008. In 2011, he won the University of Louisville Grawemeyer Award for Psychology for his work on delayed gratification, self-control, and willpower. So, meron kaming tatlong participants. The first participant is 5 years old, the second one is 4 years old, and the third one is 5 years old. So, the material that we use in this experiment is the first one is the chair, ball, and also the marshmallow. This is the procedure of this experiment. So we have 4 steps. The first step is the setup. A child is seated at a table with a chair. A single marshmallow is placed on a plate or in a bowl in front of the child. The step 2 is the instructions. The child is told they can eat the marshmallow immediately. But they are also told that if they are wait for a specific time or specified time, example in 15 minutes, they will receive a second marshmallow. The next is the observation. The researcher leaves the room observing a child behavior for via video recording. And also the behavior of the child is recorded, noting how long they wait before eating the marshmallow. Step 4 is the outcome. After the 15 minutes, the researcher returns. If the child waited, they receive the promised reward. If the child ate the marshmallow early, they only get the initial marshmallow.
For the result of our experiment, as we observed earlier that participant A initially showed no interest in the immediate reward of a single marshmallow, nodding passively as the experimenter gave instructions. However, as the waiting period progressed, signs of temptation and impatience emerged. He looked at and sniffed the marshmallow and distracted himself by mumbling, being restless, and frequently gazing out the window, seemingly hoping for the experimenter's return. Despite these challenges, he managed to delay gratification and received an extra marshmallow. For participant B exhibited a different pattern of behavior. A few minutes after the experimenter left, he showed immediate signs of temptation and impatience. Unable to resist the temptation, he licked the marshmallow and turned it over to conceal the licked portion. He attempted to distract himself occasionally but consistently expressed a willingness to wait for the extra marshmallow and was eventually rewarded. As for participant C, she showed excitement the moment she saw the treat. As soon as the experimenter left, it didn't take long for the participant to be tempted. She hesitated briefly and eventually succumbed to temptation, eating the entire treat. As a result of choosing immediate gratification, she was not given a reward. So, what does the result means? The way the kids handled the marshmallow test shows how hard it can be to wait for something you really want. Even though we did not do the kind of long term follow up like the original study did, since it would take decades to do that, our little experiment still showed a lot about how kids deal with this kind of challenge. Kid A struggled but managed to wait. Kid B gave in a little by licking the marshmallow but still waited for the reward, and Kid C got tempted quickly and ate the marshmallow right away. So, even with just a few participants, their reactions matched what bigger studies have found, which is that there's a lot of variations in how kids manage self control. Though we can't say for sure what this means for their future without more data, but it's clear that kids come up with all kinds of different ways to handle temptation, which is what the original marshmallow test was all about.
Conclusion: the marshmallow experiment highlights the children's success in delaying their gratification through cognitive avoidance or suppression, as well as having bigger stake at hand. So in short, as the children wait for their treats, the ability to distract themselves away from the treat itself plays a vital and huge factor in suppressing their urge to take the treats immediately. This includes playing with toys or with themselves solely. Cognitive avoidance or suppression with positive or pleasant stimuli is also a determining factor as to whether the children were willing to wait. It has been found that through this study, there has been no difference between the waiting time of children who were asked to think of unpleasant or sad things and thinking of treats alone, no matter if the treats were obscured. However, aside from these factors, cognitive avoidance and suppression and distraction by thinking of pleasant stimuli, the children's firm belief of getting their favored treat, be it the trust in the experimenter or the knowledge that the favored treat is within insight, largely contributes to their long waiting time. At the end, those who were able to suppress their urge to eat the marshmallow receive a bigger reward or an extra marshmallow. Meanwhile, the participant who was not able to receive an extra reward. Thus, one can conclude that the satisfaction of those who wait were greater in comparison to those who did not.